Hi, good evening. Thank you for coming out tonight. My name is Chris Butler. I'm the Chief of Investigations for the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. I'm here to talk to you about two separate, unrelated in-custody deaths that we've had this afternoon at the pretrial detention facility. The first one will be a white female in her 30s, and please excuse me, but I'm extremely limited in the information that I can provide based on the fact that next of kin notification has not been made as of yet, but we're diligently working towards that at this time. And as soon as we're able to release more information, we will. The first one is a white female who's in her 30s. Today at 12:53 p.m. inside her pretrial detention facility, a corrections officer was conducting a wellness check when they discovered a white female that was unresponsive inside her cell. The corrections officer used her radio and called in a medical emergency, at which time corrections personnel as well as medical personnel within the facility responded to the area that the female was found. The female was in a medical distress situation, and our responders performed basic life support saving efforts. Jacksonville Fire Rescue Department responded to the pretrial detention facility and transported her to an area hospital. She was pronounced deceased at 1:32 p.m. She was arrested and been in our care and custody since December 26th at 4:37 p.m. And where she was on our first floor of the pretrial detention facility in an isolation cell. And per our policy, it's required that the corrections officers make routine checks every 15 minutes, and our logs support that this did in fact occur. And I'll take any questions that you might have about this incident.
Why was she arrested?
I can't give that out right now. Again, like I said, because of next of kin information. As soon as I can give you the information, I'll give you the rest and booking reports, and you'll be able to get all the information about it. I just don't want to take the chance of putting any information out there that a family member may be able to, figure out who we're dealing with in this first tragic incident.
Was it self-inflicted or?
I won't know that just yet. Our cold case unit responded to, which is part of our protocol. Right now it's being worked as an undetermined death. I do not know if it's a medical emergency, if she had some type of pre-existing condition, or what happened.
Can you rule out another inmate causing her death?
Yes, I can. Like I said, she was placed on our first floor, which is a isolation area. And like I said, the routine checks and all that stuff, she doesn't have contact with anybody else other than our corrections staff.
Just so I understand, the first floor and the isolation chambers, are those specific for people who may self-inflict or anything, or is that just a coincidence?
No. Our first floor, it's actually a self-harm isolation area because at the time, whenever the inmates are brought into her facility, they're asked a series of questions, and she answered affirmative to possibly, some type of self-harm.
Is there video of these cells?
No, I don't think there is at all. No.
For state statute, that's not.
Yeah, no.
Was there
Okay, I was just wondering for you guys to do your investigation.
was there anything found in the isolation cell, like a sheet or?
No, there wasn't. There wasn't anything obvious in our investigation or from the first responders that got there to indicate that there was any type of self-harm. Again, a lot of these things I won't have the answers until the autopsy is performed and the results of that are made known to us. Then we'll have a better understanding of how this happened. It was, during one of the 15-minute checks that's performed, and she was found unresponsive inside the cell, so there was nobody to see what happened.
But she was placed in there because she was screened coming in.
That's correct. But without getting in a whole lot of details, it wasn't something, obviously anytime somebody indicates in the affirmative that they're self-harm, we take that extremely serious. That's why she was placed in isolation. But I can tell you it's one of those things that she was getting ready to be released back into general population.
And you said she was arrested yesterday?
That's correct.
About what time?
I don't have that time,
Okay.
so I don't know that.
And
But like I said, she's been in our care and custody since 4:37 p.m. yesterday.
I guess, I don't know if the courts are out for holidays. She hasn't made her first appearance yet.
No, she did make first appearance.
Okay.
She did.
Can you, I know you can't really give out too much, but can you make any comment on what her possible mental state was outside of saying that she was possibly going to self-harm? She came in and
No,
was on drugs or anything like that?
No, I don't know that answer as far as when she came in, as far as what her, as far as her condition goes.
What are the intervals that corrections officers make rounds for that lane?
In this area, it's every 15 minutes. And as I said before, these are two unrelated incidents. It's one of those unfortunate things that here we are, we have, an inmate death inside a facility, and then we have a second one that happened today as well. The individual in this case, he's a black male. He's 60 years or in his 60s. Again, same thing with this. We're working diligently to make next of kin notifications, so a lot of the information as far as the specifics of his arrest I will not be able to give you at this time, and as far as be able to identify him. Once we're able to do that, I'll be more than happy to release any information that I can. Today at 4 p.m., inside our pretrial detention facility, corrections officers were alerted to an inmate, and he's up on our 6th floor. So the two inmates between this one and that one, totally separate floors, not related, don't know each other. The corrections officers were first alerted by this inmate when he began yelling and banging on a glass wall. And this was within an area where it's a common area and there's cells located within the common area. But the policy is that only one inmate is allowed in the common area at a time, and every other inmate was isolated and locked inside their cell. This is one of those mental health areas. And so when they're alerted to him, he's banging his fist on the glass wall. He's yelling and screaming. Before the corrections officers respond, I've got 2 corrections officers and a corrections supervisor that come over to the glass wall and instruct him to go back inside his cell. Without any hesitation, he turns around, he walks into his cell, sits down, at which time he starts taking his head and banging it violently against a glass wall that's located within inside the cell. He does this repeatedly. As the corrections officers start to move towards the inmate, he just passes out on the floor, kind of goes forward and falls, at which time they also call in a medical emergency. More corrections personnel respond, as well as our medical staff within the facility. They begin to render basic life support saving measures on him. He ends up being transported to an area hospital, and he is deceased or pronounced deceased at 4:39 p.m. This inmate has been in our care and custody since November 7th, 2016 at 8:11 p.m. He also was arrested for a felony, and a little different from the first incident is that he's in a mental health lockdown area. And it's important to note with this individual, the male that we're speaking about, as well as a female, we did check any type of response to resistance incidents that they may have had in the facility, and they were not involved in any altercations with any other inmates, nor did we find any incidents of matters when any type of force was used on them inside the facility. His as well, at this time, it's considered a undetermined death, and I'll answer any questions about this one that you might have.
Do you know if he was on any sort of medication, being on the mental health ward?
I don't know if he was taking any medication. I don't know.
If he was taking any antidepressants, anything that may.
Yeah, I don't know that.
And so when he went back into the cell, did the officers close the cell before he started banging his head on the wall? Or?
No, it's if I can describe it this way, it is a common area, and then in the common area has doors that seal off, and then behind the common area, because the common area is open, and up against, towards the back, there's individual cells. So every other inmate is secured within their cell with the doors closed, and his cell door is open. So when they tell him to go inside a cell, he immediately goes back in, sits down, starts banging his head, at which time they, the main door to enter the common area, they enter at that time, approach his cell, and he just falls over.
So they were never in the common area until he started?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, they didn't enter at that time. They just told him to go back to his cell. He did, and then they, it takes a little time for those doors to open up and for them to enter safely.
About how long from the time he was in the cell and started banging his head and they started to respond did it take for them to get to him?
Well, they relatively quick. I don't have an exact time frame for you as far as from the time he bangs his head, or that he's banging his fist and then goes back. You're probably talking maybe 20 feet, maybe 30 feet from the main door to go back to the cell area.
And what's the protocol for when they decide to enter the common area and go to an inmate in his cell? What factors goes into that decision making when it's appropriate for them to enter if he's hurting himself?
I don't know I can't state the policy on what their protocol is as far as entering. For me, it's one of those things. I believe that they entered when it was safe for them, and once they, he was at the window. He appeared to be compliant. I mean, he's yelling and banging his fist. He appears to be compliant when he turns around and walks and goes back to his cell and sits. So then he begins to do what he does in the cell as far as banging his head, and then they go in. Hope that answers it for you.
You said he was pronounced dead at the hospital?
That's correct.
To go back, was the female taken to the hospital, or was she pronounced dead here?
No, taken to the both of them were taken to the hospital.
UFL.
Yes.
Had the second inmate, had he ever demonstrated any pattern of self-harm or anything akin to this, banging his head against
He's on a mental health floor. So with him being that, I don't know his the background and everything, but he has some obvious mental health concerns for us to put him in that area.
How frequently are those inmates seen by a psychiatrist?
I don't know that answer.
And how long had he been in your care?
He's been in our care since November 7th, 2016.
And did they have the same kind of routine where every about 15 minutes an officer is coming by doing a wellness check? Or
I don't have that answer for you. However, the way I can explain this, they have what I consider to be a pod, where you have corrections personnel that are directly in the pod, and then they're constantly walking the floors back and forth. And in this case, I don't know the time frame that's mandated or required for them to do it. So.
And just a quick difference, what's kind of like the basic difference between the isolation chambers and then the mental health ward? Is it because the isolation chambers are because they said that they have self-harm, or?
Yeah, and I'd be, if I can kind of change that, I don't really like the verbiage of, I guess, isolation chambers. It's just it's a series of cells that are in line as far as with the people that are self-harm. And they're just pretty much in a row, and you have a corrections officer that's assigned there, and they're required to make those mandatory 15-minute checks all the time. And then the other one is the differentiation is because of the people that are self-harm, because they've mentioned that they have some type of self-harm. We take that very serious and make sure that they're viewed and checked. Whereas with the mental health, they could have any type of mental health disorders.
In that isolation row or whatever, how many cells is it that we're talking about?
I'd say about 10.
Okay. And how many corrections officers are patrolling that at one time?
I don't have that answer.
And then the gentleman who died, you said he was on another floor. How many cells, if you know, are in that area, that immediate area that he was in?
I'm going to say about maybe 14. I could be wrong about that. That's a guess. Okay, 12.
There, he has the ability to interact with other inmates, even though you said at the time he had no interaction, correct?
Interacting from while they're in a closed, they're never allowed out in the common area together. They're always individual in the common area and then placed back in their cells. Okay, all right, thank you.